Not 6'6", on the old flag, 6'2", Justice, not 6'1".
All right, everyone, please stand. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening and participating in their city government. I have a mayor's report that is maybe a little longer than usual, but bear with me on this. The flood of 2019. I'd like to commend the people of Herman for their patience and willingness to put up with the inconvenience produced by this year's flood. I would also like to thank the city workers who gave up their time to stand posts and direct trucks and other traffic around town during the period. I'd like to thank Mark Wallace and Todd Lindsay, Chief Walker, and Preston Kramer of MoDOT for putting together an excellent emergency flood plan that we were able to utilize on short notice. The plan allowed us to avoid most of the problems we've had in the past with lost semi-trucks and other individuals that caused significant damage to city streets and private property throughout the city. As everyone knows, several of our streets have been closed, including Highway 19 Freen Creek Bridge, which is now open. It appears that the worst is over, and the river is projected to slowly recede over the next several weeks back to its usual non-flooded levels. Thanks again to everyone for your patience and willingness to put up with inconvenience to get the city through yet another flood. Chamber of Commerce letters. We have recently received 2 letters from the Herman Chamber of Commerce. The first concerns a working agreement between the city and the chamber concerning the city's website, visitherman.com. This letter has been sent to the city attorney for his evaluation. The second letter concerns the chamber's consideration of the 7/8 cent sales tax to be used exclusively for streets, curbs, and gutters. The letter sets out 3 conditions for chamber support. First, a reduction of utility rates to cover the amount of utility increase caused by the higher sales tax. Second, a further evaluation of the savings from 911 service consolidation. And third, a 10-year sunset on the proposed 7/8 cent street sales tax. This was a nice letter. It was not malicious in any way. I'd like to comment on these items, but in reverse order. Regarding the 10-year sunset suggestion, this would be unworkable. 10 years will not allow the city to collect enough sales tax money to complete the street work. If the tax ended in 10 years, some people would have new streets and some people would not. How can that be resolved with another tax vote? How would you feel if you paid higher taxes for 10 years and didn't get new streets while other people did? A lot of those that already have their new streets might not want to enter into another 10-year tax period and would probably vote no. The shortest time we need to pave all the streets is 18 years. That way everyone pays a little and gets their streets. It's the only fair way to do it. Regarding the call for reevaluation of possible 911 savings, we can do that and include all stakeholders. Even though the city has done this several times before, we'll look at it again with an open mind. It can't hurt. Lastly, a reduction in utility rates necessary to offset the increase in utility billing due to the new sales tax. This was offered as an ordinance at the last Board of Aldermen meeting and died for lack of a motion, was not discussed, was not voted down, and simply does not exist at this time. That does not mean that it could not be brought back again, can be passed, or a different utility reduction ordinance could not be passed. This matter was discussed as much as any I've seen. And there were a lot of different points of view. Just because it was not discussed at last month's open Board of Aldermen meeting does not mean that everybody was completely against it. I think everyone was in favor of some aspects and against others. In the end, nothing happened and it died. 8 cent sales tax for streets. The street sales tax is a completely separate item from any of the three issues above. It is not dependent on any one of them and should not be considered as associated with them in any way. Only the sales tax is on the ballot. Nothing else is. The problem, the most frequent complaint to board, mayor, and aldermen is about our streets. The vast majority of our streets need repairs. Drive around, take a look. Our budget for actual street repairs is about $120,000 annually. This amount is to maintain or replace more than 22 miles of streets. A solution. When passed, the 7/8 cent sales tax will raise about $450,000 each year to repair our streets. There is no borrowing, no indebtedness, no bond payments, and no interest payments. And about 30% will be paid by tourists and other shoppers. Each year, we will invest $450,000 in repairing and repaving the next group of streets. This process will ensure our streets are constantly being improved and repaired over the next 18 years. How much? By increasing our sales tax by 7/8 of a cent, the cost of $50 grocery purchase will only increase by 44 cents. How long? The 7/8 cent sales tax will automatically end in 18 years or at any point that the Board of Aldermen decide to stop it. So the conclusion is, if you want new streets in Herman and you want visitors and tourists to help pay for some of them, you really need to vote on August 6th. Don't let other people make the decision about your future. You must vote. Public meeting and presentation will be scheduled. The tentative date is Monday, July 8th at 6 p.m. in the Board of Aldermen room, and I suggest that everyone that's interested please attend. Busy workload. Sometimes in a busy workload of city business, I forget to report on progress. This was brought home to me several days ago by a letter from a citizen asking me to report on several items that I had initiated months ago. He wanted to know if any progress had been made, and if so, what was the current status. That's what I'm going to do tonight. I will start with items that have to do with the riverfront, as it's timely. Last Friday, which was a week ago Friday, I met with Ginger Harper of the Army Corps of Engineers, and we discussed the flooding conditions in Herman, the riverfront harbor, and the construction of a structure to keep river water from backing up into Freen Creek and causing exactly the flooding conditions that we now have. Earlier Friday, the same day, I met with State Representative Aaron Griesheimer and discussed these items: disaster relief, the Highway 19 Freen Creek Bridge, among other things. This meeting was reported by the newspaper, but the Harper meeting was not. First, we have United States Army Corps of Engineers approval to reinforce our park riverbank, and we had started this process by adding rock. We started some reinforcement in the early spring. As weather permitted, the process was interrupted by the off and on again spring flooding. Now we'll have to wait until the floodwaters recede and see where we stand and possibly start over again. Second, we have a tentative verbal Corps of Engineers go-ahead to proceed to the next step on a riverfront harbor. We discussed the concept among local interested parties, and a few did not like the initial idea. The next step is to develop plans of what we want, and Mark Wallace and I will be visiting several sites, including Washington, Missouri, and I have looked at that. I'm not sure much of it's left. So if what I could see sticking out of the water, we might not have a very short visit there. There's no funding for the marina in next year's budget, so developing tentative plans will be as far as we can go for now, unless we find grant money. Street replacement has taken priority. Third, I discussed the need and the idea for a two-way seawall type structure with Ms. Harper. And she will be forwarding paperwork requesting an engineer be assigned to evaluate the idea. This structure would allow Freen Creek to flow into the river, but would not allow the river to back up into Freen Creek. This is an extremely long-range project. It has to start at the county level then with Representative Griesheimer's office, and then to the Army Corps. No one seems really too excited about this, but other cities have structures, and I plan to contact some of them. The mayor of Hannibal is one. The city of Cape Girardeau has some. There's other places I don't know about that have one. It's not a new idea. It's not moon dust. It really is used. The city of New Orleans is completely on two parts of the circle that use this to keep the water out. They're below sea level. Demolition. The next subject is demolition of dangerous or eyesore buildings. The medical art building on the West 6th Street has been approved for demolition, and the agreement has been reached between HADH and the state. The city is preparing a bid package for quotes to tear it down, after which the city will own the lot. The former burned-out house on East 4th Street will be torn down at the owner's expense, and he will retain ownership of the lot. The old schoolhouse on West 5th Street has been offered to the city. We think, as our interpretation is, as a gift, but I'm going to check into that as soon as I can. We would have to demolish the building at our cost. It cannot be reconstructed, so that's not an option. We're investigating the feasibility of this offer at this time. The city is pursuing legal options regarding demolition of the old Bevco building. At the same time, we could repackage it if we have to for another grant proposal and resubmit it. That's probably not the best option, but it's an option. As many of you know, the old Alderman Trailer Court has been purchased by Bob Bowl and Partners. Mr. Bowl has asked the few remaining trailer owners to vacate the court so he can redevelop the property. Mark and I are setting up a meeting with Mr. Bowl and his partners as soon as he gets back in town. I believe he's out of town now. And we'd just like to bring him to bring us up to date on where we stand. And that's my report for tonight.
One thing I'd like to clear up at the end of your deal there with Bowles Trailer Court, the city of Herman at no time has told anyone, asked anyone, or gave orders for anyone to vacate that trailer park. For somehow or another that got around town that we were evicting people from that trailer park. That is patently untrue. Mr. Bowl has decided to relocate those trailers elsewhere. The city had nothing to do with that.
Thanks, Dave. You're exactly right. I missed that. I appreciate that. Okay, Mark.
Okay, hopefully the worst of the flooding is over for this round. As the river recedes, cleanup will begin. Since the pump for the filtration system at the pool is in a below-grade pit, the pump cannot be installed until the water is out of the park. As soon as that occurs, park employees will start the process of getting the pool ready for the rest of the summer. I wish to thank the Public Works Departments for all their hard work getting traffic through town, and the office staff for handling all calls regarding camping and events and other information requested by the public. In situ form will be lining sewer mains this week starting on Washington Street. They were in town today and they wanted to start as soon as they could, and just so happens that the Frame Creek Bridge opened today, so good timing there. And as most people are aware, Sellenrick Construction is in town installing fiber optic cable for Calabite. The next sign up here at the community center is Wednesday, June 26th from 3 to 7. You can always go to their website, calabite.com, for more information.
And also, if you do go to their website and you do sign up, you're still going to have to come up here to sign the contract. It has to do with easement. So don't forget that. And I think initially they had an easement. They made a mistake and they said it was 40 feet wide. It's 10 feet wide. And it basically gives them the right to come up to the house and make any adjustments they need to or changes on the box. They don't have to get permission from any single person. So that's that. Okay, let's start with the ordinances.
All right. Bill number 2019-23 on for first reading. An ordinance to revise Herman Municipal Code Section 710.020 sewer service rates. And this would increase the rates to a $23.75 service availability charge plus $0.0039 for every gallon of water consumed.
And Dave, before we take, I want to explain here, the alderman will also talk if they want to. This is not a tax increase that we've decided we want to do. This is part of the bond issue that was passed by the public several years ago. And it requires, since it's a bond, it requires, it has covenants, and those covenants require a certain cushion be kept in reserve for funding interest and principal payments and that sort of thing. In order to keep the prescribed amount of money in the where it needs to be and be in compliance with the covenants of the bond, we've had to make this adjustment. So it's that's what it's for. Does anybody else have any? Do you have any discussion?
I would like to discuss, you and I have worked on some things, and I've put together, and everybody can take one, pass it. Of course, I'm good on spreadsheets, I think, and
Here, I need to. Since nobody's actually looked at this yet, can we cover this in new business? And you still have, if there's some issue, we can take it up next time. We gotta get this passed tonight.
well, what we're going to pass, we may want to pass
Well, he
this.
just told you.
We may want to pass this one instead of that one. This is another option that we
Okay.
can't vote on until we hear the pros and
We
cons.
have gone through this, the bond attorneys looked at it, the bond underwriters looked at it, they've checked it out, the numbers are correct. I will look at yours, but tonight, it's not on the agenda, we can put it under new business. I would like to see us vote on this the way it is. We still have 2 weeks. If there's any reason to do anything different, we can still make the changes. So let's vote on this one, up or down, and we'll talk about yours in new business, and then we can consider it for whatever amount of time it takes and make any adjustments in the next go-around. So I would like to do it that way. What,
We don't get to see your numbers. We vote
well,
on
yeah,
what it is.
it's been sent, Dave read them. Do we have the,
How's it going to affect the average consumer?
well, the average consumer, it's based on 4,000 gallons, an average which I got from you. And the average number of consumers is, I believe, 1,291, which we got, I don't know if that came from you or whoever it came from. The calculations are straightforward. It's based on how much money it takes to raise $50,000. It's not based on what the average consumer is going to pay or how many people are above or below a break-even point. We have to raise the money that we need. And I thought we had sent out a copy of all this, but if not, you'll get it, then we can consider it next time. But we need to vote on this, so. Is there any other discussion? I think the experts have sent us what they, Mark asked for it, we got it, so.
So we can change, if after we all look at this, we can change it the next time?
Yeah, that's the case, that's why we read things twice. If there's a change, we'll make the change at the next meeting, and when we vote it through, we will have it done, so that's how we'll do it. If I can get a motion. Are we gonna have a motion for this? We've got to pass this
We don't do a motion. We gotta have this done.
tonight. Well, we have to have the first reading tonight. The next reading will be the 24th.
We need 2 separate readings and 2 separate meetings, and it needs to be passed in conjunction with the new budget because it's contingent on these numbers.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so tonight it needs
Or
to be.
it's contingent on $50,000, however you arrive at that.
Right, I understand that. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't going to have a problem because it wasn't going to be done in time.
We will.
If we get a motion and a second and we vote to approve this version, we can change it. After reading Jim's spreadsheet and deliberating on it, we have 2 weeks to do that. We can change it if we need to at the next vote, and that'll be the one we use.
All right, well, we can do that. I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We'll look at this, talk about it. Okay, what's the next one?
Next is bill number 2019-24, on for first reading. It would be an ordinance providing for the budget for the city of Herman, Missouri for fiscal year 2019-2020, and establishing a salary schedule for officers and employees of the city of Herman, Missouri for fiscal year 2019-2020.
So what is attached is just a summary that you all have been seeing as we've been going through the workshops. But these are your nice, new, beautiful, bound, complete budgets also. That's all the details of what this spreadsheet represents.
Okay, any questions on this?
Motion we approve. No, second.
Have a motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Next is bill number 2019-25 for first reading, an ordinance authorizing the execution of an agreement for services between the city of Herman, Missouri and the Herman Area Hospital District and Oates Incorporated. And this is an agreement that we sign and renew every year. The only thing that changes in this ordinance is that estimated amount of compensation there in the second whereas paragraph, $14,000. And that's it.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Next is bill number 2019-26. It is on for first reading. It would be an ordinance to revise Schedule 8 of Title 3 Traffic Code, handicapped parking. And this is to add a new handicapped parking space to our schedule that's in the code as described here on 4th Street.
This is for Dr. Allen's office. She has several patients that require vans and ADA accessible parking, so she asked for this.
And there is no handicap parking on that street, is there?
There's one
There's very
spot.
little handicap parking around
Yeah,
town.
there's one spot down by Crown Suites, but nothing on that side of the street.
Now, does this have one place in front of her office and one on the city parking lot?
There'll be one in the city parking lot.
Okay, so there'll be two in case she needs two.
Correct.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Next on for first reading is bill number 2019-27. It would be an ordinance to approve the execution of a contract renewal agreement of the term or with Tri-County Trucking and Excavating, Inc. for solid waste collection and disposal. And the contract that we're operating under allows us to renew it for 1-year periods. This is the last 1-year period. Then we need to redo it. But this time, Tri-County has proposed an increase of 5% to the rate, and that's what the contract renewal agreement provides that's attached.
Okay, I think we have a letter that explains that, but is there any further discussion on this? I will say that this is a pass-through, and basically the city does not make money on this. We take a fee for handling their business and billing it out. We bill it on a utility bill, and we collect the money and we pay them. So we're not a party to anything else other than collecting the fee and remitting the balances to them. Is there any more discussion? Can I have a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
We have a motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Next is bill number 2019-28 on for first reading. It would be an ordinance to amend sections 220-190, 220-200, 220-210, and 220-220 of the municipal code and prescribing a schedule of rates for refuse container leases, for garbage and refuse collection, for billing and collection services by the city, for recycling charges and foreclosure expenses related to the city sanitary landfill. And this is essentially the result of the bill that you just passed. The 5% increase shows up in the left column with the title Basic Service and then carries over to the total column. we gotta pass this to make sure our code is up to date.
Any discussion? Do I have a motion?
Make motion to approve?
I have a motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. We now have old business. We have tasked the city attorney with the sign ordinance. It is complete. It has made all the incorporations that were put into it over the past 6 or 8 years. It has started and been amended by sign people that know signs. It's a good ordinance. When Dave gets it finished, after he's looked at it, I will bring it to this board for your approval, scrutiny and approval. It's long, but so is the phone book, and you just can't leave parts of it out. It's a handbook. So if somebody wants to know what their options are to put a sign on their building, or in the historic district, they can look it up and see what the options are. That's what it's for. So that's basically the old business. We don't have it yet, but we will. Transportation ordinance is basically the same. It's complete as far as we believe. Dave's looking at it now. He'll put it in proper he'll organize it, and then we'll have that we've talked to the operators in town. This is a result of those meetings. I'm going to show it to them one more time, make sure that we all agree that that's what we talked about, and then I'll bring it to this body for them to look at, and for you to look at, and you can go from there. The third thing I have is our ordinance 420.100D6, which basically says if a person's operating under a conditional use permit and they don't pay their lodging tax on time, the city shall revoke their conditional use permit. It doesn't say may, it doesn't say could, it says shall. And we've not done that.
We need to.
What's happened in the past is conditional use permits, once passed, were pretty much given the Toreador approval, and we sidestepped and let it go through. And they're there for a purpose. And I'm not lecturing anybody, I just want to state for the record that conditional use permits are only needed for occupations, building, businesses, and so forth that are not allowed in the zone that they want to be operated in. So we will authorize them with conditional use permit, but that's to give us some control over the people. We can always revoke that conditional use permit if they don't meet what they say they're going to meet. And so what we have, the final teeth is you pay your lodging tax when it's due, or we shall revoke your conditional use permit, which basically means you need to pay. Having said that, I had a question for Dave, and that is, if you would please review this and see if it pertains to just R1. And I think it might, but at the time it was written, that was the only place that needed a conditional use permit. R2 and R3, you could do guest houses and so forth anyway. So we never did use them in that, but now that we're talking about a conditional use permit, we may have to figure out if we need to change it, or if it covers all the residential zones. So if you could do that, I'd
Do
appreciate
you
it.
have that code section that you mentioned?
420.100D6.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other old business?
I have two things. First, I know we've had flooding and we've had a lot of things going on that our employees have had to do, but I just want us to remember about marking parking spots downtown. I don't want that forgotten. And then the other thing is the electric rate reduction, why I did not vote for it. I know the mayor's already went over it, but several people have asked me, and I would like to say that we voted for a 7/8 cent sales tax that everyone pays for, including visitors to Herman, which sounds like a great alternative to bonds. It had nothing to do with electric rates. And if we did this, what could happen? There are several things. Think about Jefferson City, that was that same week. A catastrophic tornado. How would our town recover from a disaster like this? Long-term costs in the future. We have a 1.5-mile section of line that is nearly 40 years old, and we have zero ability to maintain or rebuild it. And a year ago, when 2 of those poles broke, it cost us $85,000. The pole barn that houses the electric department was built in 1966. It's in poor condition with rotted support poles, trusses broken in half and pieced back together, and it's too small, and it also goes underwater when it floods. A new building is needed actually for all of our utilities to consolidate, and this just recently happened in New Haven, and it costs millions of dollars. Our utility has been spending money to serve the citizens better. Meters are being changed out, unneeded lights were removed, the substation and other upgrades are being completed to make our system more efficient. And do we want to end this due to lack of funds? The electric department does have restricted funds. This makes it look like there's a lot of money there, but it's not a true picture. These funds cannot be touched. The electric construction reserve covers non-storm related emergencies such as a substation issue. And electric self-insurance for storm damage, yes, but not for those poles and wires. They're not covered in this. And the chamber sent us a letter stating they would be confident about the passage of the measure through a combination of a newspaper ad, support from their membership and their employees, and social media posts. But duplication of 911 services. Do you feel our town is already safer because of what we already have in place? Do we want to lose that? Sunsetting after the sales tax after only 10 years. If the streets aren't done in 10 years, are you going to vote again for another sales tax increase? Or would you prefer to keep it at 18 years? And if the streets are done before then the alderman can stop it at any time. Better city budget management. The city's employees work hard to keep our budget in line. Grants and increases in the general fund. Grants aren't that easy to win. And how does anyone know how the general fund is going to do? They state 10 years should be enough time to fix most streets, so they don't really know either. And did you know that your city has not increased your kilowatt charge in 9 years? Apparently, the city is keeping the budget in line if this hasn't changed in years. And those are my reasons, and I don't know how the other aldermen feel, but I'm thinking they probably feel the same way. We're doing a great job in our town, all of our employees, and we need to keep doing that for you.
Well said.
I'd agree with what Susan said, and hindsight's 20/20, they say, but I think we got so wrapped up in the sales tax and possible electric reduction, I think we kind of got behind on this wastewater increase. We got to do something. So now if we look back, if we did the electric decrease, and now we're going to raise the wastewater, that again would just wash out what we would have possibly done. So I thank Susan for bringing up her point. It's very good.
I'm also on the same subject. Mine's a little more personal, I guess. You know, I've had a couple of people question me why there was no discussion that night on the 7/8 thing for the plan that was suggested by the mayor for the sales tax. Well, I wanted to let people know where I stood on that issue. When this idea was told to me by the mayor, I told the mayor up front that I was not in favor of it, would not support it, because I did not like how it was being done. It reminded me of the political BS that goes on in Washington, D.C., and I didn't support it. It was too much wishy-washy. The mayor went on his own to talk to businessmen and individuals and sold the idea. Then when the proposed ordinance was not voted on, the next day the mayor posted on social media that was all the fault of the alderman. That kind of really upset me a little bit. I disagree. We as a board never really decided ahead of time at any meeting that I recall. There was never a vote to go for this idea. And then all of a sudden we had an ordinance to vote on it. The board never agreed or authorized that ordinance to begin with. And I just wanted to throw that out there. That's why I was personally against it. And I'm just speaking for myself, nobody else. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Bruce. I'd like to say this. First of all, it's not my idea. There was another alderman here who had the idea. And so I thought it was a fair idea. It was a very small amount. And my going around was not to raise support for this idea, but to raise support for the streets. We need the streets. This really is a separate thing completely. And it's So that's, but it wasn't my idea. I was not going around town to raise support for this rate reduction. Very small rate reduction and a very small token of people, but it was not passed. And like I said, it's people that the aldermen that voted that didn't talk. So there is no way of knowing who liked it and who didn't like it, or anything, the good points or bad points. And that's exactly what you have that privilege. So I can't argue with the way it turned out, and I don't. I think it's behind us now, and we need to move on. The only thing that we have to concern ourselves with now is the passage of the 7/8 of a cent sales tax. It's completely separate from this, and we need the streets. As a community, we need the streets. So that's where I stand on it. I appreciate your comments over this, and you did, for the record, tell me you didn't like it. You said right off the bat you didn't like it, and you wouldn't vote for it. So, I mean, I knew that.
I just wanted to clarify for the people that
And that's
had
fine.
that question out in the big world.
Okay, well, I think they understand, and Susan, you're exactly right, on target too. We do take great pride in looking at our budget. We go over every detail with a fine-tooth comb. Mark's probably been working on this 2 or 3 months or more with all the people that work for the city in the various departments. We've eliminated over $300,000 of things that we probably could have used. But this year, we just don't have the money for it. Every year we do this, we eliminate things. So I think that us being able to operate our city without an electrical rate increase or a kilowatt hour increase for, and I know what Susan's saying, which is exactly right, for 9 years, says we're doing something right. I don't take credit for it, but our electric department, the aldermen who are in charge of the utility rates, and our utility advisory board, they look at all these things. I don't think we waste any money, and I think people that think we waste money need to come in here and talk to the alderman, talk to Mark, talk to me, talk to Trish. If they have some ideas of how we can save hundreds of thousands of dollars, I invite them to come in and tell us about it. And we need to know. And so far, the ones that have not come in, and the details of what their plans are not very detailed. So that's what I have to say on that. Anybody else want to talk about any other old business?
Some old business I would like to bring up. Kind of touch on one of them, the nuisance. I had turned the list in. Other than Bevco, 5th Street, and 4th Street, I had some other areas on West 5th Street on the 200 block where there's a bluff and it's a breeding area for snakes and harbors, and West 5th Street at Gately beside the senior citizen housing. It kind of shoots back up there behind the senior citizens. It butts up against the trailer park, but that's all grown up in brush and what have you. And then the 6th Street trailer court, 429 West 8th Street. That's the street that in between the high school and the grade school, that the driveway is full of trailers full of trash. What I want to know is, have we done anything for them? Have they got the letters?
I don't want to throw the chief under the bus, but I gave him the list of those
Spoken to the people on West 8th Street, that's been,
a month or so ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
that house has been that way for how many years? I mean, I sent letters to them.
Marlon, I'm sure you're not being picked up by this speaker, but it's important. Why don't you come up here and tell us so everybody can hear this?
I just want to say Marlon's been good about writing letters and follow-ups on these people.
They've been getting letters. I've spoken to him personally. They're on West 8th Street about moving all that property. I mean, it's just a hoarder's nest. I mean, he's got years of junk and things there that it's going to take more than 10 days to clean that property up. It's just
Has any attempt been made?
They put stuff on trailers, move stuff out of there, but there's so much of it that it's just going to take weeks, if not months, to clean that property up. It's just been that way for years. I mean, it's just a house that's just been that way for as long as I can remember. It's just been a sore sight to look at.
We
discussed this several times since I've been on it. It gets a little bit cleaned up and then gets just piled right back
Just
up.
buy stuff and they just bring it back, and it's just continuous, that they just keep buying stuff and it just piles up, and then they move some out, it piles up, and they move it out. So it's just everywhere. It's in the backyard, the garage, the side of the house. I mean,
What point do we start writing citations?
That's a legal question where, once they've been talked to and it's been addressed, there is
I
an
can start
issue.
tomorrow. I mean, I can start writing tickets if we need to, but again, that's just, we write tickets every week, and I don't think the problem's gonna go away, that they're gonna get that any cleaner.
I would give them official level of 30 days at that point, a citation, a week until it's cleaned up. I mean, you know,
Chief, are they capable of doing the cleanup?
I don't believe the father is, I think he has a younger daughter, but as far as the dad, the father lives there, his age and his health, I don't think he can get all that by himself out there. So,
Are there health concerns?
yeah, I mean, his age and everything else is his
But I
ability
mean,
to get around.
the actual sanitary condition of the property?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just more gonna come down to his daughter or his family trying to get that cleaned up.
Can the health department help at all?
Why don't we get the health department to look at it, and then we have their, they do this for a living, they look at this stuff. They could then write us a letter saying this is unsanitary, or this is a problem. And some of your other places too, Jim, the same thing. If there's snakes and spiders and all kinds of other stuff in there, they probably don't want to go in there. I don't want to go in there, you probably don't want to go in there either. So why don't we start with that? Can, Mark, can you call the health department?
Sure.
You want me to, or?
Yeah, we can talk.
if you get this started, we're gonna have to make an example of one, and I hate to do it, but we're gonna have to get a little hard on this.
One more that, this, by all means, that's not a complete list, that's just some of them. David and I have talked about them. On 9th Street Alley, behind the Bevco, where we've had complaints about snakes coming out of the wooded area. And also, I don't know if you've talked to them or not, it's at the end of 9th Street, where antiques have accumulated.
And that's been a problem, I mean, that's been there for how many years of accumulation? I mean, that's something that's gonna have to be sat down and talked to, or what it's gonna take him to get that cleaned up. I mean, that's not gonna be overnight. I mean, it's years
Well,
of,
It's
years
been that way
of stuff
for
there.
50 years, but
It's just
There's
something
two
that happens
issues there, I
overnight.
think, Jim and Marlon. The alley is an issue, and there's overgrown with, there's machinery and stuff.
Mhm.
And you can't just go in there with a weed trimmer and get it out of there. This stuff's gonna have to be moved, I think, and a brush hog or something brought in there and cleaned it up. Now then, there's a matter of the street. And it would appear, and I don't know this for a fact, that some of the stuff is being stored on the city's property right away.
It is.
And I think that this could be moved along. Mark and I meet with the owner and explain to him the situation. It's going to take some time to clean this up. It's hot out there. Like I said, nobody wants the spiders coming up your pants legs or copperhead snapping at you or something, hornets getting you now. But that's not to say when the weather changes, it can't be taken care of. And I think we ought to start now. Can we do that?
That's also a little different situation because it's a business and actually most of that stuff, even though it looks like trash, is for sale.
And most of it probably has value
I mean,
to somebody.
and he's been there before, he's, before planning and zoning and everything else, so I mean.
I think we need to
Well, I
talk.
think a nice sit-down talk would be the way to start on that.
Just the goal is, and Mayor and I had talked, we don't want to single one person out. We want to get the whole city involved in this. And that was just something that I go around Ward 2 and envision. I'm sure there's some in Ward 1 also.
Oh yeah, you can look in my yard, I got stuff sitting around my yard.
But
I got hose cards all over the place.
We also, there's,
What for sale?
you two older persons over there, Shippers Branch, there's a guy there that must have 20 cars in his yard. Maybe it's, I don't know if they technically are cars, but they're major parts of cars. And that would be another one for this list, and the people have complained. And
And
they
he's
don't
cleaned that
understand.
property up. He's moved a lot of stuff out of there.
What about on
Yeah.
Gellert Street?
Where I'm going.
Gellert runs north and south, the south end.
Which property?
I don't know the name of there, but I just drove through there last week. I'll look it up and let you know.
The ex-head of our electric people.
No.
That is across
About
His
where
his
David
property
Bowie
looks
used to
clean.
live.
I mean, his is pretty trimmed up. Yeah.
It's the other side of the street.
Right across the street?
Yeah.
On
There was a,
the west side or the east side?
It'd be on the west side,
One of the condos, or it's on the other side.
just right across the street from that one.
Marlon, I'll go and look at that in Shivers Branch, and he's starting to clean it up. Then he's to be commended, and we need to encourage him.
Yeah, I spoke to him, he moved a lot of stuff out of there.
Yeah,
Has the water gone off the sheet?
I don't know if I can get down there. I have a boat, but I don't have it, you know.
I believe you have contacted him and he had started,
And he's moved a lot of stuff out of there.
Good.
Yeah.
But my main goal is, let's try to make Herman beautiful again. Let's clean this up. We got the ball rolling. I know the trailer park, with those trailers as I had lined out, they're marked uninhabitable from February of 2018. Been over a year since they've been laid. So just follow up. We've talked about it. Talk is cheap, action speaks, and see what we can do. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. Any other questions from Marlon? Okay, thank you.
I had another item, if I may.
Have we looked at all the things on his list?
I think at one time or another, it just,
It's old business that we haven't had resolution.
Okay, right, good, that's,
It's a stop sign at the intersection of Washington and Stark Boulevard and West 11th Street for north and southbound traffic on Washington. I know this past week with Highway 19 closed, we did kind of had a mini interstate out there.
It's a good thing the stop sign wasn't there.
I think.
Well, they weren't stopping at the ones that were there.
They,
Well, we have
I
to
mean,
do is
literally,
put a bag on
they
it.
were speeding some in the excess of 50 to 60 miles an hour on Washington Street. And unfortunately, it did include some marked police cars that did not have any emergency lights on. Speeding is very big, not just on Washington Street. I've heard from 12th Street, Jefferson Street, 9th Street, and it's not just this past week with the flood. But it needs to, if that stop sign was there, yeah, David's right, would they have stopped? Maybe not, but I first brought that up on April the 8th, and here we're in June, so it's been 2 months.
what do we have to do to get it?
Practically some, I've had officers sit out there, I've sat there myself, and we have not blocked anyone in excess of 50 to 60 miles an hour on Washington Street. I sat there at the intersection of West 9th and Washington on several days, and it pulled people over before running that stop sign or doing a California roll, whatever. So we have been present there, made stops, we run radar, no one is in excess of 30 or 40 or 50, whatever, coming down Washington. We might get people 5 over, but nothing in that excess, that kind of speed coming down Washington Street. We've not clocked anyone that way speed coming down the street at all.
Tie in with that, I had a kind of little fun thing here, maybe, but Susan, can you tell me what the speed limit is on any street at Herman, other than 100 or 19?
25?
Bruce?
In where?
What's any street in Herman other than a highway?
Yeah, 35 or 25.
It's 25 and it starts at 25 there at El
Tricia?
Rancho.
Oh, we're
And it drops
pop
to
quiz.
15.
I think it's 25 unless it's marked otherwise.
Okay.
Do I win? Woo!
Dave? You know what the speed limit is in Herman?
Whatever I'm driving.
You guys don't care. He knows he Mayor?
While we're talking,
I don't think of but I would guess.
Well, this is not an
It's
ordinance.
25 unless
I
marked.
think it's 20.
well, when we're talking about speed.
Well, I was told it's 25 on Washington Street, since that's what we had on the speed limit sign up there that day. I assume that's what it was, except in front of the school during school hours, and it's 15
From
miles.
6th Street to 8th Street is 15.
Yeah.
During Monday through Friday school hours. But my point here is, there is no posted speed limit signs in the city of Herman unless they're on Highway 119. So, it kind of, and Chief, you're right, but I am an ex-law enforcement officer. I ran radar for 7 or 8 years, and yes, I get a little bit rusty as I get older, but they are flying by.
And we have radars that are calibrated and tested, and
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure you know London's traveling that rate of speed.
But
I'm
it's,
watching.
even during school, as I brought up, school buses loaded for flying by.
And
But
there's a lot of buses, no one's traveling that rate of speed.
the point is, it's not posted, so people don't know.
I brought that up to the city that we need more posted speed limit signs.
And I think I did mention to Mark that maybe we should have some speed limit signs
Speed
put up.
limit signs.
It's hard to enforce it if there's no speed limit sign posted that someone has to obey that speed if it's not posted.
Yeah, I think there's one on 100 says speed limit is 30, 25 unless otherwise posted.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
So it's there, but it's
So-
not,
Jim, do we need, and Marlon and Dave and Mark, do we need any changes in the ordinances, or do we just need to?
I think just posting it so people,
To buy some signs and put them up?
yeah. People can't say, well, I don't know what speed limit is.
I think
Well-
posting would be fine, and in that case where I suggested for the stop sign, I think that would help them. That's in the park area, high travel tourism and families going to the park.
So we probably need an ordinance then to buy the signs. If that's the case, can we put that on the next agenda?
We don't really need an ordinance to buy speed
We
limit
don't?
sign.
Mark's already got the signs,
All right.
didn't you? That's what I thought you said.
We got stop signs, we don't have the speed.
Well,
limit.
I
Oh,
guess-
speed limit sign.
I guess what we
They're in
need,
the flooded buildings.
we need to, the one that's falling down.
Speaking of signs, I have a request for a slow children playing sign on East 12th Street. That street has several families, it has kids that are under the age of
You
5.
put one there not that long ago down
On
by-
13th,
Oh, on 13.
that was 13th.
Oh, okay.
But this is the next street
East
up.
12, okay.
There's a lot of little kids there, and I'm afraid some little kids gonna get ran over.
Children playing.
And then also on, I had a complaint from a citizen that there is high-speed traffic heading west on the alley from the parking lot across from Wings of Blazing. So that parking lot there, people are coming out of there and they're flying down towards Subway. And his
Wow.
question was, could that alley be one way and have it go east and Schiller and it's less distance? It's a suggestion, because people are flying through that alley. And there's a guest house that's going to be there, and there's Subway there, there's street traffic
So it's 3rd Street out.
Between Third and
between
Fourth.
3rd and 4th.
You want one way heading east?
Yes, towards Schiller. It's less distance.
Go eastbound.
3rd and 4th, east side. I don't know how anybody can fly down those alleys, you can't really.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you're in a hurry, because I have to admit, I thought about, sometimes if you're in a hurry, I could see it.
You end up biting your tongue off.
I know, I'm going to be honest though. And then also I had another citizen complain about Reserve Street there by the bluff. They say at night it's hard to see where the road is when you turn off there. And they're wondering if there could be a street light there or reflectors or something so that the street is marked.
Where else?
I thought we-
Reserve Street, when you come
I'm trying to
off of
remember
there.
something happened there with the light. I'll check with Jesse.
The Herman
There's one at
Farm.
the end down there.
Yeah, at the end
Where
there.
the
Oh,
old
yeah.
sewer
When you
plant
turn,
is put
yeah.
on there.
Well, actually, Mark and I talked about that a couple of years ago. We don't own any property there, do we? That we can put them.
Deerberg owns it.
What about the street? Can we put reflectors or something?
Well, it won't light up, reflectors won't light up the.
But your headlights would.
Yeah.
Reserve Street was where it's platted and where it actually ended up is two different places. The road is skewed far to the west because of the hill there. So we have to look and see where our right of way.
Well, who owns that? Where the road?
City owns the road surface, but Deerberg owns both sides.
You got state highway right away, you got private property, and you got city.
Where's where's the old supposed to be Reserve Street? Does Dearborn own that?
No,
Well, let's trade it,
we'll have to just look and see where we
Okay.
have. Yeah, we'll take
because
it.
we can put our sign, that's what it needs to be, is down there. Somewhere down in.
It needs to be right at that entrance to
Right.
Reserve Street to light that up. I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Jim, as far as the speed limit signs, I guess we need to know where to put them, so is there some way you can take a map and kind of,
Now, you want me to do it the whole city or just?
well, do the
Where
major
to?
ones, say, let's start with the number like 15.
Okay.
And
We
give
get
us-
Washington and Jefferson, definitely.
Yep.
Well, and then we'll all have copies next time we'll look at it.
Okay,
Okay.
not a problem. We'll do, sir.
Okay, thank you.
David will help me. And so will Susan and Bruce.
You bet.
Okay, good for you. All right. Okay, what else, any other old business?
Yeah, right here. How we doing on the enforcement officer deal? the job description and everything?
That, we're gonna talk to the city attorney Friday at 10 o'clock.
Okay. Mark, I know you haven't been doing a damn thing since the last meeting, the 69 line. I'm sure you just developed all kinds of time to look at it.
I talked to Jesse about that a little bit, but you know, I actually didn't understand what you were asking, or somebody was asking about the maintenance. What was the question? About that 69 line?
Giving the line to
Right.
Central Electric.
Right.
Especially the part over the bluff. Well, those big poles, I guess it's from the bridge all the way to the industrial park.
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit.
It's hard to count the poles because they go over that deal, but I think there were 30-some poles, depending if it goes all the way to the crossing or to the transformer. Well, like I said, 2 of those poles breaking cost us over $80,000.
Yeah, and, you know, we originally didn't do it because we wanted to swap, but that is no longer necessary.
We do not have the equipment
Well, I
or
know.
the people
I think we ought
to do something if
I think-
anything happens.
I think we ought to give it to them, but I think we ought to reserve some of the capabilities to use those bulls.
Absolutely.
For things that we need to
We
put
might
on.
hang something on it.
Yeah.
And in the future that we don't know about. And we also need to know that there's no recourse to us if they break and, because we did own them for a while. And I think whatever condition they're in, they'll have to take them the way they are. So we have to look at I think that the next probably conversation would be to look at the agreement, whatever the agreement is, draw up an agreement. And that's going to require Central Electric, the attorneys, which we know very well now, and get that going. But I think sooner, everything needs to be done next week, but unfortunately we can't.
No, I didn't expect that.
I know.
I honestly didn't figure he'd have a chance with the flooding and everything to really do anything on it. I was just bringing it up to keep it.
Well,
That's fine.
We're gonna go- Jesse's out of town, he's back tomorrow, I think, we'll talk to him some more.
well, the longer it takes us to do something, then the more opportunity there might be for another adverse weather condition to break another pole.
And that's just it, you know,
So
those
that's-
tornadoes here the other week.
It's a
Okay.
different deal than it was before.
2 more items and I'll quit. We were on 9th Street, heading east off of Jefferson. We all know where that's at. Apparently the guy driving the street sweeper doesn't. Would you have him start going up that street? Those people are, just that little section there next to the old Metalworks or Home Incorporated building.
Okay, 9th at
Yeah.
Jefferson.
Apparently the people there are starting to feel like orphans because that street ain't getting swept.
9th west of
Yeah.
It
Jefferson.
got swept last week.
West of Jefferson.
What's that?
It got swept last week.
It did? Okay, well, maybe they started down on their own.
I'll just
I had
make
mentioned
sure
it,
it's
but
on.
I hadn't mentioned it to you, so
Okay,
if they're sweeping it, that's wonderful. And the last item, this is not something to be solved tonight, I'm merely bringing it up because of an item we had on the agenda tonight. Why don't we have a landfill?
we do. But it's closed.
Okay.
We have 2 landfills, actually.
I had a long talk with Dennis Engelman the other day, and people don't have landfills because they're being benevolent. There's money in landfills, a lot of them. Now, there's also a lot of regulatory stuff you have to put up with. But we have the area. Well, that lower end of the industrial park could be used for that. We could fill in the low spots and everything. I'm not saying, damn it, we need to do this right now. I'm just asking everybody to think about it a little bit. This could be a source of income for the city. I don't know, I'm not into all the legal work behind this and everything else. But I think it's something, trash isn't getting any cheaper. Talking with Dennis, landfill rates go up every day. Is there something we could use to generate some revenue?
Well, I've talked to him too, I think he believes there's money to be made there.
Well, and he's in the business. I would think his opinion would at least carry some weight.
It
It may
is.
not work in our situation.
But I think we need to be very careful with
Absolutely.
the regulatory and the potential for something in 5 or 10 years that doesn't even exist now, that's a regulation. We didn't have this Superfund thing. All of a sudden it came along and now, people, it's completely changed. Be a property that was once used for a service station or something like that. So we need to be real careful.
Okay, that's just something I was throwing out there. Just thought we're always looking for money. It could be something we could use.
You know that once it's filled and capped, you can't do anything to it. You can't build on it, you can't do anything with it. It has to,
But don't we have unusable ground down there? Or ground that we're not going to use? below that lagoon and stuff? Dennis seemed to think.
Well, actually, that land down there might have value because it has a railroad easement.
Okay.
But I don't know.
I mean, if it's not doable, it's not doable. Like
You
I
know,
said, I'm
saying
just
no
throwing
is
it
not
out.
a good answer, so let's
Well, we'll
look
talk
at
to Dennis and
Okay.
get his ideas, absolutely.
I'm done.
Anybody else?
One more thing, if Tricia sent it out, but is any more updates on businesses that are delinquent on taxes or business license?
Just those 2 I told you about. We're down to 2.
So
What are we
Now,
doing?
what do you want to do?
we gonna summon, I'm sure the chief's probably summoning them, are we gonna more summons, or Dave, what's the best thing to do?
Kevin Richardson, our prosecuting attorney, mentioned in passing that he's been getting those. I can ask him specifically where he's at with that.
Yeah, there's just 2 now, so, but I don't know. if
Well,
there's-
next year, I don't want there to be any go this far.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. Oh,
They've been notified.
everybody knows when they're supposed to have this done. The problem with being lenient is people start to take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
That's all I have.
Okay. New business, I have a couple things that people have asked, one anyway, and then we're gonna get the gyms. We are gonna do that right now. The noise ordinance and request for sign near Seatown. This is the hill that's northbound that comes down, it's practically a mountain. Truckers come down there 24/7, and they use your engine brake, and it sounds like a anti-aircraft gun when they come down there at 2 and 3 in the morning. I've gotten complaints from several people out there, and it's a hot button. We could put a sign up that said that the city has an ordinance number blah blah blah, and to not use your engine brakes if at all possible. And that also is going southbound on Market Street. We have complaints there, but we have to have an ordinance, and we have to cite it. It has to mention, be similar to the one in Rolla, and mention vehicular noise like this. Then we can get signs made up and lower the speed limit a little bit, and I think we'll solve half the problem anyway. They'll already be going slower, and then they hopefully won't use the engine brakes. So that's what that's about, and so
I
we.
think there's a sign there at Second in Market that says, truck brakes discouraged.
Discouraged,
and
it
that,
doesn't say illegal.
Yeah, but MoDOT says that's an illegal sign, they didn't authorize it, it's on their highway. And I said, well.
I thought MoDOT was the one that told us to put that particular sign with those words on there.
That's not what they disclaim. So if we have somebody else,
That was somebody else then.
yeah, I don't know.
I remember that, it's been years and years ago, but I thought that's why that sign reads what it does.
Well, up on top of Seatown Hill, if the speed limit drops where it currently drops, no matter what you do is not going to change it. A truck going 55, 60 miles an hour when they hit the top of that hill has to slow down coming down that hill. They can't do that. That speed limit needs to lower further back.
Right.
Like Jim even suggested, maybe all as far away back as the Rod and Gun Club to slow these trucks
Where's the
down.
city
That's
limit sign? Is it before the Messer
right
Center
before you
or
get
after?
to Clara Eichen.
Yeah.
But we've got to get MoDOT on
Seeing
board with
this
that,
out.
and they said they would send somebody out and look seriously at that, because that is just a nuisance.
Well, a loaded truck, and you get some big log trucks coming, when they hit the top of that hill, whatever speed they're going, it's not going to be greatly
I
reduced no
understand.
matter what they do by the time they get to the bottom of that hill.
That and people pulling out of the Mesmer Center.
Yes,
I can
and
see
that's,
that.
it's going to happen.
Okay, well, that's what that was about. Now, Jim, rather than get to the property at 139 West Fifth, do we want to take that first and then get to Jim's? Tell me about the property at 139
That's
West.
the old school.
Okay, that is something that I'm gonna contact, Mark and I are gonna contact the owner and make sure that we think he wants to give it to us if we just assume all responsibility.
What are we gonna do with it?
I don't know.
But
And, but nothing's happening now. The prime is dangerous.
Can they tear it down?
I mean, it's his property, how do we make him tear it down?
Well, we can't
I
make
mean,
him
if
tear
he
it.
gives it to us, then we're gonna spend $10,000 to
I
tear
don't
it down,
think
it
we
don't
should
make sense.
accept it. I wanna find out what he has in mind. I don't think that it's worth $10,000.
Well, I'm just saying, for us to have to pay somebody to take that down, it'll cost you.
And I don't think it's worth $10,000 for us to put into it.
What's the
But we
city
need
lot
to
sell
talk
for
to
now?
them. Do what?
Is that a full lot?
Yeah, but Dave, I don't think you could build it now.
I don't know. I
You'd
honestly
have to have a
don't
ski lift to get up there.
know. Okay.
It's terrible. But anyway, that thing has to come down. That is dangerous. Kids are in it again. And I don't know that, I'll call him, we'll talk to him and
Put a
see.
speed lift in there.
Ski,
Take it all the way to the city
yeah,
park.
ski, what is that?
Zip line.
Mozart or? Okay, we get t-shirts that says Ski Mozart. Okay, but we're gonna get onto that. So that's what that one is about. I don't know what feasible solutions there are, except the easiest one for us is he knocks it down. And he's actually in the business of reclaiming these old buildings, so I don't know why. We need to find out.
Yeah, originally he was in my shop and told me that he was gonna take that down and reuse them brick with his construction company in St. Louis. That's-
St. Charles, I think.
Or St. Charles, wherever it was. That's what he had told me personally in my shop. And, but that
Well, we need to
was
find
several
out.
years ago.
But the city is, in my opinion, is not in the business of making land swaps and brokerage, real estate
Yeah.
brokerage stuff. We lose every time we do it.
And then back on your Jake break thing, I mean, we're just now getting complaints that this is a problem. I mean, people in Seattle have lived there a long time, and Hill's been there a long time. And isn't the Jake break a safety system for the trucks? I mean,
It's an auxiliary brake. It uses the engine
but I
brake.
mean, it just seems to me now,
Well,
now all of
I've
a
got-
sudden it's a problem.
I've had complaints for a year.
When this came up, I did have somebody that lives on First Street say that we need,
Yeah, I did
need
too,
on
on
their
First
side
Street.
too.
Well, mine
First
was,
On Market.
no, I don't think it's
Bad
the
thing
first.
is the mufflers as they slow down.
Right, that's what helps them slow
It's
down.
going to
Well, and
happen.
I'll tell you another thing too, that we have kids on motorcycles and stuff running around town on the weekends, late at night, and they may not be as loud as a Jake break, but they're pretty darn loud. So,
Yeah, go give me one.
yeah, I thought it was you.
You get you a bike? Oh. That would push the wind.
All right. Okay, now Jim, can you give us your,
Everybody have them.
I gotta
Yeah.
find it back.
what was the purpose of your report?
The purpose of my report was, I thought I had an idea, and I thought that's what we did, was we discussed pros and cons. We didn't move forward until the Board of Aldermen discussed it. So this was an idea I had. And this is on the wastewater thing that we have to do something. And you kept me involved, we were crunching numbers, we agreed of everything. You told me what numbers that Joey was working with, Mark was, which had been changed, I wasn't updated on those. So anyhow, the first page, it says wastewater option A. Now, that was the original suggestion to raise the minimum by $3.10. And at my math, I got, it's on Excel sheet, and they extended out what the current minimum is at $21.75, gives you $7,000, and then at $24.85, it goes to $8,000, and that's a 14.25% increase in revenue. And I broke it down by, there's 322 commercial users and 970 residential. Now, this is just the sewer, because originally it said it was 1,352, which is the water users. And I broke it down to average gallon, and these numbers came from what Carol provided, that the city has a monthly report. At that rate, it was at $52,000. That hit the goal that the city needed to hit. And at the bottom down here, in the little text box, this is a $3.10 increase, gives the revenue at that, based upon 1,292 water users, which is 60 less. Now, also, I extended this out further. This is what I do. I took and figured an average billing I used the average numbers based off the numbers I got from Carol with a 2% sales tax. That's going to reflect a 1.297% increase on the average bill. That's based on 2% tax that we're paying now. But remember, in January, I'm kind of counting the 7/8 sales tax going to go up. The utility bill is going to go up again. Option B is the original option was to increase it by $2 at a minimum, and originally it was 47, increase it to 0.0047 on wastewater. I went back after I picked up my book Thursday or Friday and I had to change it because I was still at 0.0047. That increased $52,698.94. There again, it does meet the criteria that the city needs. And that boils down to 1.208% increase per average customer, or $2.89. There again, remember, it's going to go up in January sales tax. Third page is option A1, and it's not steak sauce. But this is my recommendation, and this is my thought process, is to only increase the minimum $2 instead of $3.10. Based upon the same gallons, the numbers are identical. That still gets the city to $51,005.56, which will be an increase of 0.837% on the average customer, which is $2 per month. There again, remember, sales tax increase in January. We still get the city money that we need, but we're keeping it cheaper for the residents. Then B1, it's not a vitamin, but the same thing there is I recommend at 38 cents instead of 39. The increase of wastewater rate, and that still generates $52,134. We still get the money the city needs. And that's a 1.084 increase per average customer. To get that rate, I took in the numbers supplied by Carol, the average kilowatt hour, the water, the sewer, added it all together in order to come up with that. $2.59. Not a whole lot of difference there, but as an alderman, I want to keep the utilities as cheap as we can, knowing that there will be, or I hope to be, a 7-8 cent sales tax added onto it. And this was before the trash increase too. So that was what I wanted to talk about, to give just another option to the alderman to consider.
Okay, I would say that your option B looks to me to be the exact same thing that we passed tonight, but I want to check that out. Because I believe we added, our new rate is 0.0039 with a $2 increase, but I have to check that out, so rather than take that.
Yeah, that one is B, that's the original, I had to change it. What I propose is A1 and B1. That's where the difference will come in.
Yeah, all right, I'll look at that, and anybody else?
And I do have, you guys want to see how I did calculate the average bill, I printed off copies because I figured somebody would
What
challenge.
did you use for average number of users? Oh, I see, it's 1292.
Yeah, 1292 is the average.
What
That's-
about the average usage per customer?
It's on this chart right here. If you look at it, it says average water usage, commercial,
What page is that?
average gallon. Well, it's on A, B, or A1 or AB. It's on every one of
I think he's
them.
asking where you got those numbers from.
That
Did you get it
came-
from a year's worth or just a couple months?
That came from the last 2 months that I got from Carol's office.
So you're saying, I guess, the average gallons are 4,368.89.
Correct. That's
Okay,
between the commercial and the residents.
Okay, now, we use 4,000, and I use that because you told me it was 4,133.
Yeah.
So if we make a change and we change the number of customers and you feel that that's accurate, I'll run that too. And that'll make a change too, so.
But I hope people check it and they can, if you get on Excel, I'll send it to you on your computer where you can actually see
Well,
my
I'll take
point.
your numbers and put it in the spreadsheet that they came up with and we'll verify it. That's better.
Because it's just an idea.
Yeah, and I think
And it's another option to
it's
consider.
good that you did this.
But if you-
And, but can I say one thing, Jim?
Sure can.
Next time, if you do this, send it to us so we can look at it before we get to here tonight.
Okay.
Okay, just so we can look at it, because tonight is, once it's on the agenda, that has to be voted on, and we needed to get it done. Now, we still have time in the next 2 weeks, so I didn't want you to think that we were shutting the door on it. I will look at it, I'll even send a copy to the bond attorney who's familiar with the bond itself. I don't think there's any problem, as long as the numbers work out, and the same thing with the underwriters.
What
What is this?
I'm passing around now to
It's current. No, you gotta
2
say-
pages.
Okay.
You get 2 pages, Mayor.
I
Everybody.
do? Wait a minute, I'll
Yeah.
keep on. I get
One
two.
that Tricia's got, give her that single one laying there on your notebook.
Oh, okay, this goes to her,
Correct. That way
All
she
right,
has
these
it.
two are mine,
And that's
and this
for
goes
Dave.
to Dave. All right.
And then we need one for Bruce, one for Tricia, and I'll explain what this is. This is how we came up.
I got you. I just don't want to get it
That's
done.
Tricia's. This is the average numbers I got from using Carol's data that she provided me. I plugged that into, this is your utility bill, and it matches up from what it sent out from the city. The circles are, there's 2 different ones here. Oh, it's got one. Okay. One, and I got them labeled here. One says current average April 2019, current average sales plus 310, that's a proposal. That's how I came up with I dropped the circle, shows where I dropped the rate from 24.85 to 23.75 and come with a 0.837%. Then the bottom one is 375 times this, my suggestion, at 38 cents per gallon, where I got the percent of increase.
Okay.
The other one is with the new sales tax, in case you want to look at that, is what the difference will be when we got 7/8 added on.
And the other thing too, Jim, I think it's important to realize, and you probably, I'm sure everybody does, but if we end up collecting too much money, we can reduce this. And we can make an adjustment, so, that's what it is. I will look at it, I promise you I'll look at it, and I'll put it in the spreadsheet, and I'll let you know what comes of it, and I'll even send it to Joey, and Al is the guy's name, that's the attorney, and make sure that we're all thinking alike, and I'll let you know. And we'll go from there, absolutely.
Well, I said, it's just another option. As an alderman, I want, and this number shows me where we can save the end user, which is our citizens, our voters, to try to keep as low as possibly the utility rate.
I don't think that if you take $2 on the base rate, the rest of it's gonna come out the same. If you end up with 50, the same amount, if you end up with, there's only so much dough you can put in this pan, and it'll pop out somewhere, so let me look at it real close, and I'll call you if I don't understand something.
It's broke out in those last sheets I told
Okay.
you with the electric rates, the water weight, and all that's. Anyhow,
Okay,
that's what I wanted to offer up, because the data I was given before changed, and I didn't know anything about it, so I just moved forward with the information I had.
well, we're comfortable, we're looking at it, and let's go from there. Okay, any other, we've covered what's on here, any other new business? Mr. Farrell, you have anything you usually do?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
David knows
Okay.
I do.
Do we have any citizens?
Bob.
I do have some new business.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't.
Actually, I got 3 wrote down, but one of them's already been answered. Received a call today, and we talked about before the meeting, on a Jake's Plumbing and Construction on West 10th Street. A citizen called concerned about he parks his probably 3/4 ton flatbed pickup and utility truck on 10th Street. And in his driveway behind the house, he has 2 Bobcats. And the citizen was concerned about how the streets narrow down when they park those bigger trucks on 10th Street. And then as they drop a trailer to load those Bobcats back and forth, they don't have the metal cleats, they do have the rubber tires. And the alley is right behind the Little Bearcat Center. And the citizen thought that that was chewing up what the city just patched the potholes in the alley. I drove up and down it twice today. And he does this of excessive supplies on the outside of his garage, which has grown up in weeds. He does have a valid city license, and I can't find any ordinances really per se, other than 355.130. It said that trucks less than 25 foot in length and less than 7.5 foot in width are exempt. Do we have an ordinance where 3/4 ton flatbed trucks and large utility trucks are not permitted to park on the street?
I don't think we have an ordinance that says that per se. It's commercial trucks, or it has a number of feet, but I'd have to look.
Well, I've been asked about this before by people, and I've looked, and the vehicles are all legally licensed. I mean,
I don't think.
you're gonna have to find a description of a vehicle that's illegal, because the vehicles are legal. And yes, it's a narrow street, but we're full of narrow streets, unless those vehicles are wider than everything else in town.
This has come up, wow, about a year ago in another place. And we had an ordinance that required a person, if they had such a truck, to come to Mark and get a permit for $5. And so I know there's an ordinance out there. I can't specifically tell you what it is, but whether it applies directly to this, we'll have to find it.
Like I said, that ordinance, let's see, Dave can take a note, 355.130.
Okay.
What I read here is the exception. Now, above that, it does say trucks, farm equipment, campers, pickup truck designed for a camper to slide on the back end, but it does mention trucks, and in parentheses, prohibited vehicles. Now, nowhere in online could I hear what was included in prohibited vehicles.
I also had a complaint about the same issue, and the issue this particular person complained about is that they sit there for a very long time before he uses them. In other words, he may not use the truck for a month. So, anyway.
And we talked at one point about maybe a parking lot somewhere where if you have a big vehicle, you can park it and leave your car and drive it. We talked, I know down by the amphitheater is not good because it floods, but.
Well, it's not good now, but it's
No.
good most of the
But most of the time,
I think the individual here had parked his equipment behind the old MFA, which is now flooded, but even before the flood, I think he had utilized that for parking of his vehicles. But I know for the last 2 years, almost 3 years I've been back, they've been parked on 10th Street.
I doubt seriously if these people would mind paying $5 unless it's the principal, but we gotta find the ordinance and see if they even apply to this.
Having them pay $5 to leave them where they're at isn't really gonna solve the problem.
no.
No, but I saw, there you go.
Well, he's a business, he has a business license, and
Oh, we have an ordinance, and if the ordinance isn't effective, you know what I always say, we either change it or get rid of it. And if what we have doesn't do anything, then we really don't have an effective ordinance, and we're just fooling ourselves if we think that $5 is gonna keep them from
$5 just
keeping it
can't
in
go
front of
through.
their house or whatever. So
I'm just saying that we don't provide parking spaces for other businesses in front of their residents, so. Anyhow, all we can say, look into it and see what we can move forward. I told the
He's got it.
citizen I would look into it.
Okay, what else? You got some more?
Yeah, ordinance for, oh, David and I had this call.
Uh-oh.
And I said something to Tricia about this. It's, there again, right across from what I just talked about on 10th and Gaithy. A residence there, you know, this is something you probably gotta walk on eggshells with, but it's anti-Christian postings in their front yard. They have some types of flags hanging on the front porch. And Chief, if you go by, you might be able to determine more because you're close
I've spoken
to the laws about that this is either a cult or devil worshiper signs. And Dave and I talked, and I said, well, we got the freedom of speech and religion, but the F word was used on the sign.
And Marlon had them take that down.
So and you can't really read the sign from the street, but some of the neighbors are very upset. I went through, looked at the ordinance again. Really, there's no ordinances there that says that people can't use profanity and obscene signs in
We're
their
gonna be
yard.
expected to define
Does the
that.
sign, one of the signs say something about we have an electric fence? Is that legal to have an electric fence in
And they
there?
got them up for dogs.
Okay.
I don't know, Marlon, what did they,
I spoke to them and they took the sign down with F word on it. But they practice Wiccan, I guess witchery or whatever, but not satanic rituals or not sacrifice anything, but they said that's what they believe in and they have the right to put it on their property, that that's their stuff they bought off Amazon, and that, I don't know if there's anything we can really make them take it down at this point.
I think we
We should
have,
get rid of the one with the.
I mean, thank you for doing that.
I asked her to do that just because there's.
Dave, do you want to get involved in anti-witchery?
Not sure.
No. Report back to it next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
What is our new sign ordinance?
I had actually
Yeah.
sent Dave an email and talked
I'm
to
sure
him
it's
about
in
this.
there. It's 30 pages long. I'm sure it's in there, but I don't know what it says.
Dave shows up next meeting as a frog.
Yeah. Yeah.
This either is otter out there.
All
I
right,
got one more small thing.
okay.
Promise. And I've talked before, I would like to see, I don't know if it takes a proposed ordinance or whatnot, but I would love to see a Herman City flag replacing the German flag. Not, you don't have to take them out of the room, but when we all took oath of office, we swore allegiance to the city of Herman's ordinances, the state of Missouri laws, and the U.S. Constitution. Nowhere in there did I hear that we're swearing anything to the country of Germany. I
think
know
that's a
we
good
have
point.
a city sister, which is great, I'm proud of that too. I'm asking for that to be gone, but I'd like to see a city flag.
And we
instead
have a
of
city flag, so we can,
Have it displayed and show our colors.
well, I think that probably shouldn't be too hard to do. If everybody agrees, we can easily fix that.
I'm good with it.
So we're gonna add another flag?
I think take that one down and put the
Yeah.
city flag in there.
That would be one there and one back
And up
there.
here, I'm not, yeah,
Move German flag off to
German
the side
flag
or
off.
something.
yeah. Is that okay with Bruce?
You'd have to get a special order to get a small one like that made of just the city.
Well, we'd have to get that first, but yeah, I'm sure we could. Somewhere. I don't know what it would cost.
Name in the office quilts.
I see
What is
them
that thing?
down at Riverfront's got all three, the Hermit flag, the state of Missouri, the US flag. Coming into town, I believe there's a Hermit flag
Well,
out
I don't
there
think
too,
there's
so.
any discussion that it's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's good.
That's it, I promise.
Let's examine what it takes to get a little flag and the other ones are available, we just have to buy it, that's all, and they don't cost that much. Okay, so that's that. Do we have any citizen comments?
No.
We have no citizen comments. Let's go through the motions. That didn't come up right. We have a motion to amend or accept the minutes.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
We got the second down here. This lady's been trying to second things for an hour and a half. Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have invoices for payment. I have one question. Did I read this properly, that we're buying boots for state troopers? Why is that? Do we do that all the time? State trooper?
That's where the officer bought them from. It was a
Oh.
Troopers Association.
Oh, okay.
It's the same
All right.
style blue paper it works for.
That makes more sense. All right, good.
They're
All
not
right.
gonna cut their hair like Freffmeyer.
No.
Oh, okay.
All right. I understand. Any more discussion? How about B? Can we pay those? Pay our bills?
I make a motion to pay them.
Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. C, approved bid for Caledon Virtual for visitherman.com website and logo design. Now, Tammy, I understand that this has to do with the $10,000 grant. And we put up 5 and they give us 5. And so then, has this been designed? No, it's gonna happen. So I want you to be careful that the new design doesn't take away from the city's ownership of that website.
It will not.
Okay. Well, okay, that's my questions. Anybody else? We want to pass this? I need a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to pass that, please.
I'll second.
A motion is made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion's carried. D, conditional use permit, Kevin Sanderlin, owner unoccupied guest house at 215 East Fifth Street. And that, what is the zoning there?
I believe that's commercial.
East of that.
R1. Okay. Otherwise, just wanted to make sure, so.
Unless this would have been in the original, unless that's been changed since then. When was it? East.
You probably wouldn't need a conditional use permit if it wasn't.
For some reason.
Anyway,
That's a floodplain house that really cannot be used for anything.
no.
Is that the one
And he's
down there?
Yeah, right behind him
He's
too.
plowing money in that thing right and left.
No, that's true.
Yeah, because the street's on the
Yeah.
other side. Franklin. You're
And
right.
I don't think there's a house next to him.
No.
It's the one with
So he has-
water up in it right
My
now.
mom
Right.
and dad's old house.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any further discussion on that, or do we?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved. The conditional use permit renewal, Donna Borgman, Greystone Properties, owner unoccupied guest house 202 West 6th Street.
And that's R1 also.
Is that R1? Okay. Now, is this a new one?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Across the old doctor's office.
So
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Next block is my
are
gravel.
these being approved to the end of the year?
Oh, let's back up.
I know R2 and R3 we are. Are we gonna?
Well, I think you should make them all
I,
at the same time.
Yeah, and then it's all at once.
So let's go back to D, conditional use permit renewal, Kevin Sanderlin. We'd like to have this fit in with all the other ones
Correct.
and have that, thanks Trish, that's only good until the end of the year.
December 31st.
So let's revote again. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Conditional use permit, Donna Borgman. That's an R1 unoccupied guest house. The same condition would apply, that would be good till the end of the year.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's granted.
Question.
Yeah.
These people that apply for this fee, do they do that every time they apply?
no, it's one thing.
One time. Okay, thank you.
Conditional use permit renewal, Tatum and Gross Real Estate LLC, owner unoccupied guest house at 1221 Washington Street.
Can I ask what zone that's in? It's not marked.
Is that the house at the funeral home?
Yeah.
Yes, the house at the end of the funeral home.
That's
parking
R1?
lot.
Or is that commercial?
Oh, it had to be R1 or we wouldn't need it.
Yeah, well,
We got the map.
well, we can approve it anyway, and,
For 6
Tricia's
Or
looking
till the
yeah,
end of the year.
until the end of the year.
Well, that came up right when we were getting ready to switch over that time. And we allowed this one right at the crossover, so I'm sure it's R1.
Can I have a motion to approve that?
R1, okay.
So moved.
Second? Motion's made and duly seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Caterers permit Fernway Ceiling Company, Perseverance Foundation Summer Jam, Amphitheater, June 22nd, 2019.
Oh,
Do they have alternate plans for that?
that's what I was gonna ask, Tammy. They have
That's what I
all,
was gonna ask.
if they have to postpone this, will this caterer's permit go with that postponement?
I'm going to ask you to please include in your motion that, to approve both the amphitheater, and if the amphitheater is not ready, the Promida parking lot.
Now, if they use the Pomida parking lot, are they gonna fence it off since there's alcohol?
They would need to do something,
Yeah.
yes.
So let's put if we approve this, let's put that in there. If it turns out to be Pomida, they would have to fence off the parking lot for their, alcohol.
Change of venue.
Yeah. So, do I have a motion for that or any further discussion?
I'll make a motion if they fence it, if they have to wait.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made, seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved. Picnic liquor license, Herman, Missouri Junior Chamber of Commerce, Hospital Auxiliary Benefit Amphitheater. And I would assume the same thing would apply there.
Well, that's
That's September 14th.
That's in September, hopefully it'll be qualified.
Okay. Well, okay.
make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's that. We have, we have no reports, no committee reports, so I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's go home.
Dave was the one who asked me. What did you give those progress reports?
Through the mayor.
Yeah, this is my first.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, no, but she gives us those through the year.
They have a committee